What's going on, producers? What we're going to talk about in this video is the law of three and form, and how these two things come together to blend repetition and variation together like a boss. That way your ideas don't just become mundane because you're repeating the same thing over again. Knowing exactly when to develop that idea, when to introduce that change, and when to repeat things when it feels good, so that you're not going too hard on the I'm just repeating everything and it's getting really boring, and then I'm just changing everything and I'm completely messing up the vibe of my track because I'm changing it way too much. So these two things and the way they come together really allows you to blend repetition and variation together in the most perfect way, so that your productions and your ideas and your compositions sound professional, they sound polished, and they sound creative, and they sound refined. I taught this live on one of our bi-weekly coaching sessions inside the Piano for Producers Inner Circle, and everybody on the class loved it so much. I really enjoyed teaching it that I thought it would be super valuable for you guys who follow me on YouTube to get this knowledge as well. Heads up, I had a little bit of a glitch in the audio in the first couple minutes of the session, and it worked itself out right around the 6 or 7 minute mark or so. That being said, you'll still be able to hear what I'm demonstrating, and as soon as it clears up, we're smooth sailing from there. That being said, let's hop right into the good stuff. I want to talk about what the law of three is first, and how form ties into that. Actually, I think I may want to see the example first, then talk about it, and then listen to the same example again through the lens of everything we talk about. I think that might be fun. So we're going to listen to about this much of the track. We're going to get to this section right here, because this is actually the form before it repeats itself. So let's listen to it, then we'll get into the lesson, and then we're going to listen to it again. So that's the idea. Very chill, very R&B, very smooth. Let's put that aside for now. Let's talk about this, and then we'll analyze that from this perspective, because what that song does is a perfect demonstration of what we're going to be talking about here. So the law of three is very simple. There's 3 steps to this law. Number 1 is to play the idea. Okay, so whatever the idea is, you play it. Let's say that's my idea, right? Just a set of notes, just play them. Step number 2 is to repeat it. Because when you repeat the idea, what you're doing is you are now establishing that idea as a theme. That's what's most important. So if I say, repeat, now it became a thing. The first time I played it, it was just some notes there. But then once I repeated it, it then became a thing. And it feels on purpose, right? So I establish it as a theme. Now, step 3, and there's a little bit of leeway here, but step 3 is you change it. You play something else. You play something different. Because if you repeat it a third time, depending on the idea, it can get monotonous. But if you change it here, it's welcomed, and then we can move on to the next part of the phrase. So if I play the idea, repeat, change, repeat it. See how that feels? That feels like there, it felt natural to just restate that theme again. So if I were to put this into the language of form, I'm going to take each idea and I'm going to call it a letter. So this is A, then I repeat A. Then I have a different idea that I call B, then I repeat A. So that would be A, A, B, A. A again. B. A again. And now that sounds like a really cohesive idea. One of the things here is that I don't have to repeat this. It felt right to repeat it, but I can actually take it to a new place. And so I can have A, B, C, because it would be a brand new idea. Let me see if I make something a little bit different, because that that felt like it should be A, A, B, A. I'm making a very simple nursery rhyme thing here, just so we can really get the point across. So A again. Now it's a theme. And then B, C. Now that's a thing I can repeat. That, you see how that feels like a cohesive idea? And yes, I'm making it up and I played something slightly different than I played the first time. But you see how it just flows? It has a natural flow to it. It has a really good blend of repetition and variation because I'm thinking about it in these boxes of form as it goes by. That's one way we can do it. And I'm gonna start writing the form linearly because that's like actually how we think about it. The second thing that we can do is we can actually repeat it again here the third time if the idea calls for it. But by the fourth time, we must change. Because if we don't change the fourth time, all we did was play the initial idea 4 times. And then we have A, which essentially is just A. Repeat it again and again and again. So that really doesn't do anybody any good, right? So if we follow this law of 3, where instead of changing the third time, we repeat the third time, but we change the fourth, we would have A, and then B. So here, if coming up with a, actually, let me just do some chords this time because I think it would be better. So here's the A. Now repeat it. And I'm gonna repeat it one more time because it feels good. But now I have to change it the fourth time. Back to the beginning. You see how when I come back to the beginning, it's refreshing. I can now keep doing this. Third A, B, but this time I could change it a little bit. Now I can come back to the A. And you see how this feels like a theme now. Like this feels like the theme. But then when I leave it, I have somewhere to go. Whatever. Now I was starting to get tired because I played it a million times already. So there I'd probably want a new song section. But look at how far that got me. I got 4 repetitions out of this guy. And 75% of what I played was this. But simply because I had this little B section, and maybe the second time I went around to the B section, I changed it slightly, added some variation. There's a really healthy blend of repetition and variation there. So I'm not trying to just make things up as, I was gonna say I'm not trying to make things up as they go, even though I am, but I'm a little bit more formulaic about it. See where I'm coming from? When you are formulaic in this way, it produces something that's just very cohesive because it has a really, really great blend of repetition and variation. So notice how we can use this law of 3 for melody, even though I did a very simple nursery rhyme type of thing, and we could do it for chord progressions. You can do this for drum grooves. Let me do a drum groove here where I will do, I don't know what the form is going to be because I like to go with whatever the idea is, but it's obviously going to start with A because it's going to have some sort of idea to it, and then let's do A again just so we can follow the law of 3, and let's see what happens after here. So D, let me know if you can hear this beatbox without it fading out.
Okay. That's good.
Awesome. So that's A. All right, so that was A twice. So let me see if I could really signify this. That's very involved. So I'm getting my money's worth right now. That's cool. And I actually like repeating that. I think that would be really cool to repeat. I'm just hearing that repeat. So A, A, B, B. So I'm not going to change. I'm actually not going to change it this fourth time. So here's what I'm doing here. Because the idea feels good this way, I'm going to change on the 3, but then I'm going to repeat the change because that felt good. And now I have a nice cohesive form. It's literally symmetrical. So You see what I did there? Can anybody tell me what I did on that last one? The form I took on the second half.
You did like a AABC.
My man, that's exactly what I did. AABC. Why did I do that?
It even broke up the monotony from the first four bars. So it changed the first four bars to a different second four bars.
Correct. Correct. Bringing in some more variation, breaking up the monotony. Perfect way to say that. So if we take a look at what's happening here from a repetition and variation perspective, we have this is the same. We have this is the same. And then we have one little section of difference. If I would have just repeated this again, it just would have been two repetitions of the same exact thing, which is cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But having this, it kind of acts as a transition that gets you right back to the beginning. That just it just feels like a transition. It feels welcomed. So listen, I'm going to do this one more time. It's probably going to be a little bit different, but listen to this C again. Once we get to that C, notice how because we do something different, it makes coming back to the beginning exciting again. Make the beginning exciting again. Red hat. So check this out. See what I'm saying? Like, it was like, ooh, this ficket. It could have been whatever it was. But, you know, because it was something different, we hadn't heard it before, it's like, yo! You know what I mean? So, fire! I want you guys to notice one thing. Before I made this example, I was like, I'm not going to write out the form. I'm just going to see what happens. The reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to be locked down and feel like I have to make something in this way if the music doesn't naturally go there, if the music isn't calling for it. Really, the process that I'm taking is I have this idea of the law of three, I have this idea of form in my mind, and I know that when it comes to this point in the music, something should probably change, but I'm not forcing that change. I'm more going with the flow, and I'm seeing what comes. And when I have this roadmap, so to speak, in the back of my mind, it allows my ideas naturally to come out in a way that's cohesive, rather than trying to write down this form and then make it fit that box. More so, okay, I know that by the third time something should do something different, the fourth time something should do something different. If I repeat this again, probably should change somehow if it feels like that. So let's see what happens as I do this. Which is why it came out AABB. It probably wouldn't have come out that way, but it felt right. Just with the, you know, that idea in the way that it came out felt right. So I say that to say that knowing this, just being aware of this, is the power of it. Not to create something with a specific form in mind, but just having it in the back of your mind and really making it a part of you. And making it a part of you is actually super easy. It's 2 steps. One of them is bigger than the other because the second one just happens naturally. Number 1 is listen to music and see how you can put things in boxes. So listen to the chord progression and see if you can put it in a box of form. Or see if you can, you know, start counting, okay, there was 1, or they repeated it, oh, they changed it, law of 3 in action. Or, ooh, they did it, ooh, they did it, ooh, they did it, ooh, they changed it, law of 3 in action, right? It's just on the 4th time. Or see if you can hear melodies. As soon as you just listen and recognize that other people are doing it, it's naturally going to start coming out of you. And then when you create, just kind of have this in the back of your mind. And the more you listen, the more it will be in the back of your mind, and you don't have to try to remember. It's just a natural part of how you create. So that being said, let's take a look at how the idea that we looked at earlier follows this. And the idea follows it in the way, well, actually, I want you guys to tell me. So I'm going to play it. So I want you guys to tell me what the form for this idea is. Yo, real quick, if you are digging this video and you're digging this educational content, do me a big favor, hit that like button below and subscribe to the channel, because not only will you be notified when videos like these drop, but you will also be helping me reach new people who may need this free education, but they wouldn't find it otherwise. So by simply clicking the like button and subscribing, you are helping the next person down the line get this knowledge for free. And as we know, knowledge is power. There is nothing better than knowledge and skills. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Can't wait to keep getting you this value. And let's get right back into the video. This is the right answer. AABC. Let me play it one more time. Now that you know that AABC is the right answer, let me play it one more time and see if you can hear it. 1, 2, 3. So what we're listening for, and I didn't want to give any guidance because I just wanted to see what happened when we first did it. What we're listening for is the repetition. We're listening for what is that theme, right? If we remember the law of 3, it's the idea. 2, because of the repetition of that idea, it's a theme. And then it's either change or repeat, whatever. And then the fourth one, you know, depending on what happens the third time, we see what happens the fourth time, right? Sometimes you'll get ideas that don't repeat themselves the second time, but there will, you know, on the second one, so sometimes it may be like A, B, A, but there's still that repetition there. You will still hear the idea repeat. That's what you're really listening for to try to find the form, is where is the repetition? Because that's going to inform what the form is. So here we have... That's A, and that repeats one more time. Now, Rhoda, I'm gonna give this one to you because I can see how it would be this.
I was listening to the melody,
yeah,
and not so much to the progression. Like when you played it the second time, I was like, oh no, the chord that leads into that phrase, even though the melody is the same, like the progression underneath it is slightly different.
The chord changed. The chord changed.
Yeah.
And then one note, because the chord changed, one note in the melody changed. So you can absolutely argue that no, that is A and a half. Like it's just A with a slight variation, because we're going from this, right, to, it's not a huge, I mean, it's like you can absolutely hear a difference, but it's so similar that you can absolutely argue it's A and a half, you know, so good catch, tomato at that point. Point being, whether you call it A or B, the third time introduces change. That's what's most important. So we have, repeat. This just became a theme. Do something different. You see how welcomed that is? Now we just leave. Do something different for the C section. Now that we've heard it there, let's hear the song again, or you know, the production again, and not just the chords, so we can hear that in action. And as a matter of fact, the first time I'm going to talk you guys through it, I'll say the sections as they're passing by, and the second time we will just listen to it. So A. See how obvious that is? Now that we see it like that. So talk that through in your mind, very, very softly, but also just listening to the music as it goes. Ready, and... So do you see, number one, how obvious that is when it's pointed out to you And you're like, oh yeah, it's A, A, B, C. But then notice how it just flows and it just evolves as one piece of music. Even though you can break it down into its 4 individual parts, they flow well. And the reason it flows well is because of the law of 3. Because the law of 3 gives you the perfect blend of repetition and variation. That's why I wanted to teach this today, because I know some of you have heard me talk about it. But I just made this the other day, and when I made it, I wasn't thinking of this stuff at all. But after I made it, I was like, oh, this is actually a really great, like this follows this perfectly to a T. Let's talk about it. Because when you have the stuff in the back of your mind, your ideas just sound infinitely more put together.